The sound of tearing metal echoed through the endless sky as a burning object streaked downward. It was a small human escape craft, breaking apart as it entered the atmosphere of an unknown planet. Inside, a soldier named Aaron gripped the controls, trying to steady the failing ship. His armored suit was locked tight around him, its systems damaged but still protecting him from the fire. Aaron's eyes scanned the failing displays. Red warnings filled his visor. Oxygen was running low, the engines were failing, and the escape pod was barely holding together. He muttered to himself, reminding his mind to stay calm. He had been trained for war, but not for crashing alone on an alien world. The pod slammed into the surface with a thunderous crash. The ground shook, dirt and rock scattering in all directions. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, with a sharp hiss, the pod's hatch cracked open. Aaron pulled himself out, his armor scorched but intact. The suit's joints creaked as he stumbled onto the strange soil. The sky above was heavy with dark clouds, shifting as if alive. Lightning flashed in the distance, casting the land in brief, sharp light. The air was thick, making Aaron's chest tighten even inside the armor. He knew at once that survival here would not be easy. Aaron looked around. The ground stretched wide, covered with dry ridges and broken stone. Strange trees with twisted branches stood in clusters, their leaves glowing faintly in the dark air. He had never seen plants like these, yet they moved slightly as if watching him. The soldier adjusted his helmet's filters. He told himself the armor would keep him safe, but he also knew the truth: the suit was failing, piece by piece. He checked the systems on his wrist. The display flickered weakly. Power reserves had dropped, and the armor's auto-repair systems were offline. His body was safe for now, but trapped. The suit was designed to be unlocked with a partner's help, a safeguard created to prevent enemy capture. But Aaron had no partner here. He was alone. Or so he thought. From the shadows of the strange trees, a figure watched him. It was not human. The figure was slender, its skin pale with patterns of silver across the arms. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the storm's light. This was Kira, a native of the planet. She had seen the fire from the sky and came to witness what had fallen. She crouched silently, her sharp senses studying the armored human. She had heard of outsiders before, though few had ever come to this land. Outsiders brought danger, yet also stories. Aaron felt the weight of the world pressing against his mind. His suit clicked with each step, heavy and slow. He whispered inside his helmet, "I cannot remove this without help." It was both a fact and a confession. Without another hand, the locks would remain sealed. He wondered if rescue ships would ever come. But rescue meant time, and he did not know how long his suit could last. He searched for water, for shelter, for anything that could give him a chance. The armor magnified his strength, but it also drained energy with every move. He found a broken ridge where rock formed a shallow cave. Crawling inside, he sat down heavily. The metal pressed against his chest, making each breath harder. Above him, Kira moved silently along the rocks. She studied him with curiosity. His armor looked like a shell, both a shield and a prison. She saw how slow he moved, how weak his steps were despite the strength the armor gave him. She thought of her people's tales, stories of travelers who came from the stars, wearing strange skins of steel. Some brought fear. Others brought wonder. None stayed long. Aaron closed his eyes for a moment, but the armor's alerts kept him awake. He knew he had to act quickly. He tapped the side of his helmet, sending out a weak distress signal. The signal might never reach anyone, but he had no other choice. His voice was low and tired as he spoke into the calm, "If anyone can hear me, I need help. I cannot remove my armor without assistance." His words faded into static. Kira heard the faint voice carried by the suit's external speakers. She tilted her head. Though the words were not in her tongue, the tone was clear. He was asking for help. She stepped closer, her feet making no sound on the stone. She was cautious, ready to flee if he turned hostile. Aaron's sensors caught movement. His visor flashed a warning. He looked toward the shadows and saw a shape among the glowing leaves. His hand moved to the side of his armor, where a weapon was fixed, but he did not draw it. He was too tired, and he knew if this world had life, it might be his only chance. Slowly, the figure emerged from the shadows. Aaron's breath caught when he saw her. She was taller than he expected, graceful, with silver markings glowing faintly on her skin. Her eyes held both caution and strength. She looked at him as though deciding whether he was friend or foe. For a long moment, neither moved. The storm rumbled above them, and the faint glow of the strange plants lit the space between them. Aaron raised his armored hand slowly, palm open, showing he meant no harm. His voice was steady though weak, "I am not your enemy. I only need help." Kira studied him. She did not understand all his words, but she understood his gesture. Her people believed open hands showed honesty. She stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the heavy armor that covered him. She could see the cracks in the metal, the faint sparks at the joints. She realized then what he meant. His shell was broken, and without help, he would be trapped. Aaron felt a flicker of hope. He thought to himself that maybe, just maybe, he was not alone after all. The storm roared louder, lightning tearing across the sky. The land shook slightly under its power. Aaron looked at the alien before him, and though he did not know her name, he understood one thing clearly. His survival now depended not on the armor, not on his training, but on whether the stranger chose to help him. The storm grew heavier as night came to the strange land. Lightning forked across the sky and thunder rolled like drums. Aaron sat inside the shallow cave, the suit's systems flickering weakly. His helmet display dimmed, forcing him to blink hard to see the world around him. Outside the cave, the alien figure stood still, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly in the dark. She had not spoken a word yet, but her eyes had studied Aaron carefully. He raised his armored hand again, showing his palm in the same gesture of peace. Kira, for that was her name, stepped closer with slow, graceful movements. She stopped near the entrance, keeping a safe distance. Her instincts warned her not to trust easily, yet her curiosity told her to stay. She had seen the fire in the sky, the crash, and now the stranger in the metal shell. Something about him felt different from the stories of cruel outsiders. Aaron's voice came through the suit's speakers, low and strained. "I cannot stay alive without help. This armor keeps me breathing, but it is failing. I need someone to unlock it." His words carried weight, even though he was unsure if she understood. Kira tilted her head. She did not know his language fully, but she caught some sounds. The way he touched his chest and then pointed at her made sense. He wanted help. She could see the pressure on his body, the heat rising from the cracks in the suit. She answered, her voice soft yet firm in her own tongue, "You are not of this world." "Why should I help you?" Aaron could not understand her words, but her tone was clear. She questioned him. He lowered his hand and tapped the chest plate of his armor, showing her the broken lights and sparks. Then he placed his hand on the ground and pointed upward, signaling he had fallen from the sky. Kira crossed her arms, her silver markings glowing brighter as if reacting to the storm. She was not sure if he was a danger. Yet she saw his movements lacked hostility. His strength was fading, not rising. She stepped closer, her eyes fixed on his helmet. She whispered again, "If I help, what will you give in return?" Aaron did not hear her exact words, but he understood the look in her eyes. He nodded slowly, then touched the side of his helmet where his water supply was stored. He poured a small stream into his palm and let her see. It was clean water, purer than the heavy rain of her land. He offered it forward. Kira's eyes widened. Clean water was rare here, for storms often carried dust and poison. She took a cautious sip and felt its clarity on her tongue. Her gaze softened slightly. Perhaps this human was not useless after all. The storm raged louder. Kira finally stepped inside the cave, though still keeping a gap between them. Aaron felt relief. For the first time since the crash, he was not alone in the dark. Hours passed as the storm battered the land outside. Aaron tried to keep the armor running, pressing at weak switches, but every effort drained the last sparks of power. He slumped against the stone wall, breathing heavily. His voice cracked through the speaker, "I cannot open it myself. Without another hand, I will not last long." Kira sat opposite him, studying the lines of the suit. She could see the seams, the locks, the strange markings of human design. Her people were skilled with energy tools, but this was different. She leaned closer, her fingers brushing lightly across the surface. The armor hummed faintly under her touch. Aaron did not move, only watched with tired eyes. She pointed to one of the locks, then to her own hands, as if asking if she should try. Aaron nodded slowly. His visor lights flickered weakly, showing his agreement. She pressed the lock gently, but the mechanism refused to open. It required both a code and another person's physical input. She frowned, pulling back. Aaron sighed inside the suit. He whispered to himself, "It was made this way. No one can unlock it alone." He realized how much he depended now on this alien who did not even speak his tongue. The storm eased near dawn. The clouds broke slightly, letting a pale light fall across the land. Aaron lifted his head, gazing at the horizon. The world was still hostile, but less dark now. Kira rose and stepped toward the cave's mouth. She looked outside, scanning the land with sharp eyes. Her people had survived many dangers here: storms, beasts, machines that roamed ruins. She knew more threats would come. She turned back to Aaron, her voice calm. "If you wish to stay alive, you will walk with me. I will not carry you." Aaron did not catch every sound, but he understood the gesture she made, beckoning him to follow. He struggled to his feet, the armor groaning with weight. He took slow steps, the suit heavy like stone. Yet he followed her out of the cave into the strange morning. The two figures walked side by side across the broken land. Aaron's armor dragged in the dust, while Kira moved with swift grace. She glanced at him often, her mind filled with questions. Why did he fall from the sky? What war had sent him here? Why could he not free himself without trust? Aaron, inside the failing suit, asked himself different questions. Would she truly help him? Would she leave him to die if he slowed her down? Could he find a way to show her that humans were not only destroyers, but also builders and allies? The silence between them was heavy, yet not empty. Each step built a fragile link, an uneasy alliance born from need and curiosity. Aaron's survival rested in her hands, and Kira's judgment of humans rested in his actions. As they climbed a ridge, the land opened into a wide valley. Strange machines half buried in dust stood there, remnants of a forgotten age. Their metal bodies were still and lifeless, but Kira's face hardened at the sight. She knew these machines sometimes woke, bringing danger. Aaron noticed her tense posture and followed her gaze. He did not know the full story, but he understood the warning in her eyes. Danger was near, and they would face it together or not at all. For now, the soldier in broken armor and the alien of silver markings walked forward, strangers bound by survival, each unsure if trust would grow or crumble in the days to come. The valley stretched wide before them. The broken machines stood like silent statues, half buried in stone and dust. Their shapes were strange long arms, wheels locked in place, and heads that looked like metal birds. Aaron's eyes followed each one carefully through his cracked visor. He knew the look of war machines, and these resembled the weapons of ancient battles. Kira moved faster now, her body graceful and balanced as she stepped across the uneven rocks. Her silver-marked skin glowed faintly under the pale light of the morning. She did not speak much, but her movements told Aaron she knew this land well. He followed slowly, his armor heavy and draining with each step. At times his suit jolted, the servos failing. He stumbled, and his armored hand pressed against the ground to stop his fall. Each time he rose again, Kira would glance back at him, her expression unreadable. She did not reach to help, yet she did not leave him behind. Hours passed as they crossed the valley. Aaron's suit recorded the air quality, temperature, and strange particles floating in the wind. The readings showed danger. Without the armor, his lungs would suffer. He felt the weight of the truth again: the suit was both protector and prison. He could not take it off alone. When they reached the far side of the valley, Kira led him toward a cluster of rocks that formed a natural shelter. Inside, the stone walls curved like a bowl. Here, the air was calmer, and the ground softer. She motioned for him to rest. Aaron sat heavily against the rock. His breathing was slow, his voice faint through the speakers. "Thank you," he said. He knew she could not fully understand, but gratitude was clear in tone. Kira crouched nearby, watching him. She pointed to the cracks in his armor, then touched her own chest, raising an eyebrow as if asking how long he could survive. Aaron tapped his helmet's side and shook his head. The power levels were dropping. His body was safe for now, but time was running short. To explain, he pressed his armored finger against the ground, then made a small motion of falling, followed by locking his hand on his chest. Then he pointed to her hands and then back at his chest plate. His meaning was simple: he had fallen, and he could not open his shell without her. Kira studied the gestures. Her eyes narrowed, but she understood enough. She leaned closer and placed her hand against the lock of the armor once more. The surface hummed under her touch. She pressed harder, but again the mechanism refused to open. She frowned, then looked back into his visor. "Not simple," she murmured. Aaron nodded weakly. "Not simple." It was the first time he felt their voices meet, even if only in fragments. Kira sat back and pulled a small tool from the pouch at her waist. It was a shard of crystal bound with thin wire. She pressed it against the lock, and a faint spark lit. Aaron watched carefully, both hopeful and afraid. If she forced it wrong, the armor could seal tighter or shut down completely. But Kira only tested lightly, studying the reaction. She stopped after a few moments, shaking her head. She was learning, not rushing. The day grew long. Shadows stretched across the land as the sun dipped behind the high ridges. Aaron sat in silence, his body trapped, his mind turning with thoughts. He remembered his squad, the battle in orbit, the last moment before his pod had been torn apart. He wondered if any of them had survived. He wondered if rescue ships searched for him. Yet he knew he could not wait for rescue alone. His survival now rested on this stranger. Kira broke the silence by placing a piece of fruit on the stone between them. It was dark blue, with a soft glow at its edges. Aaron tilted his head. He had no way to eat it inside the suit, but the gesture touched him. She shared her food with him, even if he could not accept it yet. He raised his armored hand in thanks again. She gave a small nod, her expression softer than before. That night, they stayed in the rock shelter. The storm clouds moved again across the horizon, flashing with lightning, but the shelter kept them safe. Kira sat near the entrance, her sharp eyes watching the valley below. Aaron remained against the wall, his armor humming faintly, his body heavy with exhaustion. When silence stretched too long, Aaron spoke again through the speakers. "Human," he said, pointing at himself. Then he tapped his chest again, repeating, "Aaron." Kira blinked at the sound. She understood. He was giving her his name. She touched her own chest and said, "Kira." Aaron repeated slowly, "Kira." His voice was rough but steady. For the first time since the crash, he did not feel entirely lost. The two sat quietly, the storm's light flashing over their faces. Neither spoke more words, but a bridge had begun to form. At dawn, they prepared to move again. Kira walked ahead, scanning the land with the precision of one who had lived here all her life. Aaron followed, his steps slower but steady. As they walked, Kira pointed to ruins ahead, half covered by sand and stone. Towers broken in half, walls split open, and shattered machines lay scattered. Aaron recognized the shapes. These were not natural ruins. They were built by hands, long ago. Perhaps this world had once held a great city. Kira's voice was quiet, filled with memory. "Old ones," she said. Her people had tales of this place. Machines had destroyed it, leaving only shadows behind. Aaron looked at the ruins with a soldier's eye. He saw patterns of battle, scorch marks, and fallen walls. He thought of his own world's wars, how cities had fallen under fire. Humanity had always rebuilt, but not every people could. He glanced at Kira. She stood tall against the broken city, her silver markings shining faintly in the sun. She looked unafraid, though her eyes carried sadness. Aaron understood something then. This world was not only his prison. It was her home, her history, her burden. If he wanted her trust, he would need to show more than need. He would need to show respect. As the two moved deeper into the ruins, Aaron spoke again, his voice steady. "Kira, help me. I help you." He pointed to himself, then to her, then pressed both hands together in front of him. Kira tilted her head, watching him. She did not answer at once, but her eyes softened. She understood his meaning. Partnership. For the first time since their meeting, she gave him a small smile. Not wide, not certain, but real. And in that quiet moment among the broken towers, Aaron knew they were no longer only strangers. A fragile trust had begun to grow, a trust that might one day unlock more than the armor around his body. The ruins stretched wide and silent, broken towers rising like the bones of giants. The air was heavy, and dust swirled in the cracks between stone and metal. Aaron walked slowly behind Kira, his armor groaning with each step. His visor flickered, showing faint warnings. Power levels were low, but the suit still gave him strength to move. Kira walked ahead, her eyes sharp. She knew these ruins well. Her people told stories of this place, stories of the machines that once ruled and the dangers that still slept under the dust. She paused often, scanning the shadows, listening to the faint hum of the wind. Her silver markings glowed faintly, as if warning her of what was hidden. Aaron noticed the way she moved, cautious yet confident. He trusted her steps more than his own sensors. His suit was failing, but her instincts were alive. They entered a wide plaza where broken statues lay scattered. Strange carvings marked the walls, symbols from a time long gone. Aaron touched one with his armored hand, tracing the pattern. It felt like history itself, silent but still speaking. Kira stopped suddenly. She raised her hand, signaling him to wait. Aaron froze, his armor locking in place. She crouched low, her eyes fixed on a shadow moving among the broken machines ahead. At first, Aaron thought it was only the wind. Then he saw it too, a faint red light glowing inside the chest of a half-buried machine. Slowly, the machine's head lifted, its metal joints creaking. Dust fell as it rose from the ground, alive again after a long sleep. Aaron's heart raced inside the armor. His voice came through the speakers, low but clear. Enemy. Kira nodded once, her eyes narrowing. She had seen these machines before. They hunted anything that moved, driven by old commands no one remembered. The machine's body stood tall, its frame larger than both of them. Its arms ended in sharp blades, and its head turned with a grinding sound. More red lights flickered in the shadows. One by one, other machines stirred, crawling out from the ruins. Aaron counted at least 5. His suit systems tried to lock onto them, but the targeting was weak. He had little power left. Still, he raised his arm and aimed. A faint burst of energy shot out, striking the nearest machine. Sparks flew, but the machine kept coming. Kira moved swiftly, pulling a spear-like weapon from her back. The blade shimmered faintly with energy. She darted forward, faster than Aaron could move, and struck at one of the machines. Her weapon pierced its side, sending it crashing to the ground. Aaron's voice echoed through the speaker, strained but steady. Together. Kira glanced back and nodded once. She leaped aside as another machine lunged toward her, its blade arm slicing through the air. Aaron forced his armor forward, using what power remained. He slammed into the machine with his full weight, knocking it against a wall. The impact cracked the stone, and the machine collapsed, its chest lights fading. The battle raged through the ruins. Kira moved with speed and grace, striking where the machines were weakest. Aaron, though slower, used his armor's weight to shield her when danger came too close. He blocked a blade that would have cut her, sparks flying across his chest plate. His armor screamed with strain, but he stood firm. Kira struck again, finishing the machine that had nearly reached him. For a brief moment, they locked eyes. Aaron gave a small nod inside his helmet. Trust was no longer only words, it was action. But more machines kept rising. Their red lights glowed like eyes in the dark, and their steps shook the ground. Aaron's power warning flashed again. The suit was almost out of energy. His movements grew heavier, slower. Kira saw his struggle. She knew he could not last long this way. She shouted in her tongue, pointing toward a broken tower nearby. Her meaning was clear, they needed higher ground. Aaron followed, dragging his heavy frame toward the tower. Kira cleared the path, striking down a machine that blocked them. They reached the base of the tower and climbed the broken steps. Aaron's armor groaned, but he pushed on. At the top, they had a clearer view of the ruins. The machines circled below, their red lights moving like predators in the shadows. Kira stood tall, her spear ready. Aaron leaned against the wall, his suit sparking with low power. He spoke through the speakers, his voice faint but determined. "If I fall, you must run." Kira turned sharply, her eyes fierce. She shook her head. "No," she said firmly, the word clear even across language. She pointed at him, then at herself, then pressed her hands together as he had done before. Together. Aaron felt a surge of strength. The word echoed in his mind. Together. He forced his body to stand straighter, his armored hand tightening into a fist. The machines climbed the tower's base, their blades scraping against the stone. Kira struck first, her spear flashing with light. Aaron followed with heavy blows, his armor shaking with each strike. They fought side by side, human and alien, their movements different but joined. At last, the final machine fell, its red light fading into darkness. The ruins grew silent again. Only the sound of their breathing and the crackle of sparks filled the air. Aaron collapsed against the wall, his armor nearly dead. Kira stood near him, her chest rising with deep breaths. She looked at him, her eyes steady. For the first time, she spoke his name clearly. "Aaron." He lifted his head weakly, his visor cracked but glowing faintly. "Kira," he answered. In that moment, they both knew the truth. Alone, neither could have survived. But together, they had faced the machines and won. The storm clouds rolled above, casting shadows over the broken city. Aaron's armor was failing faster now, and he knew he could not delay much longer. He would soon need her to unlock the suit, or it would become his tomb. But for now, as the ruins stood quiet once more, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt trust. And that trust would carry them into the battles yet to come. The ruins grew quiet after the machines fell, but both Aaron and Kira knew silence did not mean safety. The storm clouds had drifted further, leaving the land dim under a pale moon. Shadows stretched long across the broken stone, and the air carried a strange tension. Aaron's armor hummed faintly, weak and unstable. His visor showed constant warnings: low power, rising heat, system failure. He leaned heavily against the wall of the broken tower, his breathing slow and strained. Kira stood beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. She felt danger still lingered in the air. "We must rest," Aaron said through the speakers. His voice was faint, but firm. He pointed toward a sheltered space between fallen walls. Kira nodded, guiding him carefully down the broken steps. She could see the weight of his armor pressing against him. Every movement was harder now, every sound of the joints louder. They built a small camp within the ruins. Kira gathered pieces of stone and broken metal to form a barrier. Aaron, though weak, used the last of his armor's strength to move heavy debris into place. Together they made a circle of safety, though both knew it would not hold forever. Kira lit a small flame using crystal shards and dry roots. The fire burned low, casting soft light across their faces. Aaron sat near it, the glow reflecting off his cracked visor. Kira sat opposite him, her spear resting at her side. For a time, neither spoke. Only the fire's faint crackle filled the night. Aaron broke the silence first. "Machines will come again," he said slowly. "They are not finished." Kira nodded. She knew it too. Her people had fought them for generations, never fully winning. These machines were part of the ruins, always waiting, always rising again. She looked at Aaron's armor, sparks still flickering at the joints. He was strong, but his shell was dying. Aaron looked at her through the visor. If they come, you must not fight alone. Kira's eyes narrowed. Nor will you. The night deepened, and the wind carried strange sounds through the ruins. Faint clicks, like metal striking stone, echoed from the distance. Kira rose at once, spear in hand. Aaron struggled to stand, his armor locking stiffly. The sound grew louder. The machines had found them again. Red lights appeared in the shadows, glowing like eyes in the dark. One by one, shapes emerged, crawling over broken walls, stepping across the stone. There were more this time, twice as many as before. The air shook with the sound of their heavy steps. Aaron's visor flashed warnings. He forced himself upright, his voice sharp. Kira. Ready. She gave a short nod, her grip on the spear tightening. The machines moved closer, surrounding the camp. Their blades gleamed in the moonlight, their bodies humming with power. The first machine lunged forward, swinging its sharp arm. Kira leapt aside, striking its chest with her spear. Sparks burst as the blade cut deep, and the machine collapsed. Aaron moved next, slamming his armored fist into another. His strength shook the ground, knocking the machine into the wall. But more came. 3 at once rushed toward them. Aaron blocked one with his body, the blade scraping across his chest plate. His armor screamed with sparks, but he stood firm. Kira moved swiftly, striking down another before it reached him. She moved like lightning, her silver markings glowing brighter as she fought. Aaron's movements grew heavier with each strike. The armor's power drained fast, his limbs slower, but he did not stop. He swung his arm, crushing one machine against the stone. He kicked another away, his visor flashing warnings again. Power low, the system whispered in his ear, but he ignored it. The camp filled with firelight and sparks. Machines fell, but more rose. Aaron and Kira fought side by side, never leaving the other's side. When a blade came for her, he blocked it. When his strength faltered, she struck for him. Kira shouted in her tongue as she drove her spear through another machine. Aaron did not know the words, but he understood the spirit. Her cry was fierce, filled with fire. It gave him strength to push again. One machine broke through the barrier, its blade aimed at Aaron's head. His armor was too slow to stop it. At the last moment, Kira leapt forward, her spear piercing the machine's chest. It fell with a crash, sparks flying across the camp. Aaron turned to her, his voice rough but grateful. "You saved me." She gave him a sharp look. "We save each other." The battle dragged on. Machines fell one after another, their red lights fading into darkness. At last, only silence remained. The camp was filled with broken metal, sparks still glowing faintly on the ground. Aaron collapsed to his knees, his armor nearly dead. The heat inside the suit was unbearable, and his breathing came in short gasps. Kira rushed to his side, placing her hand against his chest plate. The metal was hot, too hot. She looked into his visor, her eyes serious. "Armor killing you," she said firmly. Aaron could only nod weakly. His voice cracked. "Yes. I cannot open it." "Only you can." Kira studied the locks again, her mind racing. She had seen the way the suit responded to touch, the way it resisted her tools. She pressed her hand against one of the locks, watching as faint lights flickered. She could feel its rhythm, its weakness. Aaron's voice was soft. "Kira. If you cannot open it, I will not live long." Her eyes narrowed with determination. She whispered, "Then I will find the way." The storm clouds above rumbled again, but neither of them moved. The night was theirs for now. They had faced the machines together and survived. Aaron's life was slipping, but Kira's resolve was strong. She had not trusted humans before, but now she looked at him and saw more than an outsider. She saw a partner. And as the fire burned low, Kira promised silently that she would not let the armor take his life. The fire burned low as night stretched on. Broken machines lay scattered around the camp, their red eyes dark and silent. The smell of smoke and metal filled the air. Aaron sat slumped against the wall, his armor cracked and sparking. Kira knelt in front of him, her hands pressed against the strange locks of his suit. She had never seen human armor before Aaron. To her, it looked alive, like a beast of steel wrapped around his body. It hissed and hummed, keeping him trapped inside. Each lock glowed faintly, pulsing with dim light. Kira traced her fingers across the lines, studying the rhythm. She could feel how it resisted her touch, how it wanted to stay closed. Aaron's breathing was heavy. His visor flickered, showing only half his face through the crack. His voice was low, weak, but steady. "Kira, you must be careful. The armor, it will fight you." She gave him a sharp glance. "Then I will fight it back." Aaron tried to smile, though his face was pale. "It was built to protect me. Now it is my cage." Kira pressed harder against one lock. The faint light shifted, then dimmed. She felt something inside move. She pulled back at once, her eyes wide. The lock had responded to her. Aaron noticed too, his gaze following her hand. "You found a way," he whispered. Kira nodded. "Yes. But it is not simple. The armor knows me. It pushes back. It does not trust me." Aaron gave a weak laugh. "Then you must teach it trust, as you taught me." The words struck her deeply, but she pushed them aside. There was no time for thought. She focused again, moving her hands across the locks. Each one glowed faintly, resisting, but she pressed on. The suit hummed louder, as if angry. Sparks leapt from its joints. Suddenly, the ground shook. A distant roar echoed through the ruins. Kira froze, her spear close. Aaron struggled to sit straighter, his visor scanning. Not machines, something else. The roar came again, closer this time. Stones tumbled from the broken walls, and the fire flickered weakly. Kira stood ready, eyes on the shadows. Out of the darkness stepped a massive shape, taller than the machines, built from stone and glowing crystal. It moved slowly, each step shaking the ground. Kira's heart raced. She had heard of such guardians, ancient protectors of the ruins, awakened only when outsiders disturbed the heart of the land. Now one stood before them, eyes glowing blue, arms heavy with crystal blades. Aaron tried to stand, but his armor failed him. He fell back with a sharp gasp. Kira gripped her spear tighter, her markings glowing faintly on her skin. She glanced at Aaron, then at the Guardian. She could not fight it alone. The Guardian raised its arm, aiming at them. A blast of crystal light shot forward, striking the wall beside them. The camp shook, dust falling from above. Kira pulled Aaron aside just in time. He groaned in pain, his armor sparking again. Kira knelt beside him. If I fight alone, I will fall. If you stand, we may win. I must open the shell. Aaron's voice was faint. Then do it. Take the risk. I trust you. Kira placed both hands on the main lock near his chest. She closed her eyes, letting her mind focus. The lock resisted at once, glowing bright and sending a jolt through her arms. She gritted her teeth and held on. She could feel the rhythm of the armor, its strange pulse like a heartbeat. She pressed harder, pushing her own energy into it. The lock trembled. The hum grew louder, then weaker. With a sudden spark, it clicked open. Aaron gasped, the suit hissing as a section of the chest plate loosened. Kira did not stop. She moved to the next lock, forcing it to open. Sparks burned her hands, but she ignored the pain. The Guardian roared again, stepping closer. The ground shook with every step. Kira's heart pounded, but she kept going. One lock after another opened. The suit hissed, steam pouring out, as if angry at being undone. At last, only one remained, the final lock near Aaron's neck. Kira pressed her hand against it, but this one was stronger than the rest. It pulsed fiercely, resisting her with all its power. The Guardian raised its arms, preparing another blast. Kira looked at Aaron. His eyes met hers through the cracked visor. You can do it, he whispered. She pushed harder, both hands against the lock. The glow grew blinding, burning her skin. She cried out, but did not stop. Her markings shone bright, merging with the light. The lock screamed, then at last, it broke. With a hiss, the armor split open. The chest plate fell away, the helmet slid back, and Aaron gasped as fresh air filled his lungs. He staggered forward, free for the first time since the battle began. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with life. Kira caught him before he fell. She looked at him closely, her voice firm. You are free now. The shell no longer owns you. Aaron took a deep breath, then stood straighter, his body weak but his spirit strong. He looked at the Guardian, which loomed closer, glowing brighter. He reached down, lifting a shard of crystal from the ground. It fit into his hand like a blade. Together, he said to Kira. She nodded, lifting her spear. The two of them stood side by side, facing the ancient Guardian. The giant roared, and the ruins shook. But this time, Aaron was no longer trapped inside steel. He was free, and he was ready to fight. The Guardian towered over them, its body of stone glowing with veins of blue crystal. Each step it took made the ruins tremble, each sound echoing like thunder. The broken machines scattered across the ground seemed small in its shadow. Aaron and Kira stood together, weapons in hand, their eyes fixed on the ancient protector. Aaron's body was weak, but his spirit burned stronger than ever. For the first time since Kira met him, he stood without the heavy cage of his armor. His breath was ragged, yet steady. In his hand, he held a shard of crystal, sharp and glowing faintly. Beside him, Kira's spear gleamed under the pale light of the moon. Her silver markings shone bright, wrapping around her arms like flowing rivers of light. The Guardian raised its massive arm. A blast of crystal energy shot forward, striking the stone near them and throwing sparks into the night. Kira pulled Aaron aside, rolling across the ground. They rose quickly, dust clinging to their skin, hearts pounding. We cannot fight its strength, Aaron said. We must strike its heart. Kira narrowed her eyes. She had heard the old tales of her people. Every guardian carried a crystal core, hidden deep in its chest. Break it, and the giant would fall. She pointed with her spear. There. In the center. We strike together. The guardian stepped closer, its glowing eyes fixed on them. Aaron clenched the crystal shard tighter. He looked at Kira, his voice steady though his body trembled. Stay with me. She gave him a sharp nod. Always. The battle began. The guardian swung its massive arm, the blade of crystal cutting through the air. Kira leapt forward, rolling beneath the strike. Her spear flashed as she struck its leg. Sparks flew, and the giant staggered, though only for a moment. Aaron followed, climbing the fallen stones and leaping onto the guardian's side. He drove his shard deep into a crack, holding himself steady as the giant roared in anger. The creature thrashed, trying to shake him off. Kira moved swiftly, striking again and again, her spear cutting across the glowing veins. The light dimmed slightly, but the guardian's power was still strong. It raised its arm to smash her, but Aaron shouted, drawing its gaze. With all his strength, he dragged the shard upward, carving a glowing line across its chest. The guardian bellowed, its cry shaking the night. Kira saw the crack widening near its chest, the glow of its heart shining faintly within. This was their chance. Now, she shouted. Aaron leapt from the guardian's side, landing hard but keeping his grip on the shard. He stumbled, but Kira was already moving. She rushed forward, spear aimed straight at the crack. With a fierce cry, she drove the weapon deep into the guardian's chest. The spear struck true, piercing the glowing crystal heart. The giant froze. Its roar turned into a low hum as the light inside it flickered. Cracks spread across its body, glowing brighter and brighter until the entire form was shining like fire. Aaron pulled Kira back at the last second. Together they dove behind the fallen wall as the guardian exploded in a burst of light and stone. The ruins shook one final time. Then silence fell. Dust filled the air, drifting slowly under the moonlight. When it cleared, the guardian was gone, nothing left but shards of crystal scattered across the ground. Kira and Aaron rose slowly, their bodies bruised and exhausted, but alive. Kira looked at him, her chest rising with heavy breaths. It is over. Aaron leaned on the wall, wiping sweat from his brow. His voice was quiet, almost disbelieving. Yes, it is over. They stood together in the ruins, watching the dust settle. For the first time since they had met, there was no hum of machines, no roar of giants, no sound of battle. Only the soft whisper of the night wind. Kira lowered her spear, her eyes studying him. Without the armor, he looked fragile, almost too human. Yet she had seen his strength, his courage, his will. He had fought not with steel, but with spirit. Aaron noticed her gaze and gave a faint smile. You thought I was only strong because of the armor. She nodded once. I did. He stepped closer, holding the shard still glowing faintly in his hand. But you see now. Strength is not in the shell. It is here. He tapped his chest. Kira's markings glowed softly as she placed her hand over his. Yes. You have proven this truth. The night passed slowly. They rebuilt their small camp, though they knew they might not need it for long. With the guardian destroyed, the ruins had fallen silent. For the first time in many years, Kira believed her people might walk these lands without fear. As dawn broke, the sky painted with soft light, Aaron sat beside the fire, his eyes distant. I thought my armor was my life. Without it, I believed I was nothing. But now I see, it was never the armor. It was me. And it was you. Kira tilted her head. Me. He nodded. You gave me strength when the armor failed. You saw me, not the shell. That is why I could fight. That is why we won. Her expression softened, though her voice remained firm. Then remember this. Do not return to chains of steel. Walk free. Aaron looked at his broken armor lying in pieces across the camp. For the first time, he felt no pull toward it. He turned back to her, his decision clear. I will walk free. Together they watched the sun rise over the ruins. The land was quiet, but it no longer felt empty. It felt alive again, filled with promise. Kira lifted her spear, resting it on her shoulder. Where will you go now, human? Aaron looked at the horizon, then at her. Where you go? If you will have me. She studied him for a long moment. Then a faint smile crossed her face. Then we walk together. And so they did. The ruins behind them lay in silence, the guardian gone, the machines broken. Two figures moved across the dawn, one carrying the spear of her people, the other holding a shard of crystal in his hand. They were not bound by armor or chains, but by trust and will. It was not the shell that made them strong. It was the bond they had forged, the courage they carried, and the promise of a new path ahead. And though the world was wide and filled with dangers yet unseen, they would face it side by side.